If you've been feeling overwhelmed with content, maybe you don't feel disciplined, motivated, or inspired to create, I want you to keep watching this video because I have definitely been there before, and I want to share my personal process on how I get unstuck in these moments. This includes core shifts that I'm making to have a better relationship with content, my social media strategy for both my personal brand and my physical product business. Finally, how I'm creating a routine and schedule for myself that allows me to create content at a sustainable pace without burning out and also honoring my personal energy levels. So if that's something that you want to learn too, then keep on watching. Now, before we can even talk about strategies and systems and tactics, we first need to talk about mindset, because 90% of the reason why you are likely blocked is because of the story that you're telling yourself around content creation. And so I want to share some of the core shifts or reminders that I also needed in order to get myself back to a level of excitement to even want to create content. The first one is really remembering that every day you have a free lottery ticket to change your life, to change your family's life. So many times we talk about social media as a lottery. It's unpredictable, sometimes it's unfair, and it's more in a negative light. But the truth is, we are truly one post away from changing our lives. And how I know this is that it happened to me 7 years ago. I made this video, it went viral, and because of it, I ended up building a multi-million-dollar business because of all the traffic that this video generated. Now, looking back, I could say it's because I had the right hook, I had the right topic, I had the right thumbnail. But the truth is, during that time, 7 years ago, when I was making content in my mom's house, in my childhood bedroom, this video was like any other video that I was making that month. And so it goes to show that you really never know which post is going to take off. But what is almost guaranteed is you're never going to get the opportunity to change your life if you don't post anything at all. And so when I use the free lottery ticket analogy and I think about it in a real life, like if I had a free physical lottery ticket and I threw it in the trash every single day, what a waste that would be. It really puts things into perspective. And so when you can see social media as an opportunity rather than something that's holding you back and something that you should complain about, it really changes your mindset and your willingness to show up consistently. Now, even though the idea of having a free lottery ticket, a free daily opportunity to change your life should be an exciting thing, many of us will then feel pressure. And the reason why is because if I have this daily opportunity to change my life, then my post therefore needs to be perfect. It needs to have the right hook. It needs to retain someone because I don't want to waste that opportunity. But that is a very backwards way of thinking of content creation, because what you're actually doing is you're creating a lot of constraints around what your post should look like, to the point where you're posting inconsistently because you're spending more time thinking about the post rather than putting it out there, or you're not posting at all because you're just so overwhelmed and you want it to be perfect. This leads me to the second thing that I always have to remind myself whenever I'm in a content slump, and that is choosing consistency over performance. And I think we tend to forget how hard it is to even be consistent. It takes a lot of inner work, a lot of discipline, and a lot of courage to show up more times than not. And so when we are trying to get out of a content slump, when we're trying to get back on the horse and we're trying to manage being consistent and learning how to do that, plus also learning how to have the right hook, the right editing, the right thumbnail, the right caption, the right blank, no wonder we collapse. No wonder we may post one or two things and then completely fall off, because it's a lot for one person to manage all at once. And so if you are someone who's in a phase where you're trying to get back on that horse, my recommendation is to focus on one thing at a time and to primarily focus on being consistent first. Don't even worry about performance just yet, because the truth is a lot of that work in being consistent will eventually lead to performance. I've been rereading the book Atomic Habits, and they talked about a study where there were two groups of photography students. The first group was measured on how beautiful their photo was. The second group of students, their success was measured on the volume of photos that they took. And by the end of that study, they found that the photos that were the most beautiful, the highest quality, all came from the group whose success was measured by volume. And the reason why this was the result is because even though the first group of students was measured by quality, most of the students just spent a lot of their time sitting there trying to figure out what would make a beautiful photo. Whereas the second group of students, they actually were measured by volume, and so they were able to find out what made a beautiful photo. And naturally, through putting all of those reps in, it led to performance. What we can learn from this study applies to content creation. Instead of spending so much time figuring out what the right hook is, what the right editing is, we need to be posting in order to find out. And how we do that is lowering the stakes and removing the constraints and all of that pressure that we're putting on our work, because that's what's preventing us from actually posting. I often ask ask myself, why is it so easy for me to post on Instagram stories like it's nothing, but I tend to overthink and not post much on Instagram Reels? It's because with Instagram Reels, I'm always comparing myself to other creators and thinking I need to have a storyline, it needs to be cinematic, I need to have a visual audio hook. Because of all of that, of course I don't want to post because it's such a stressful thing. Whereas with Instagram stories, I feel like it's fun, it's lighthearted, I don't really think too much before I post something on there. And so I always ask myself, how can I apply that same energy towards the other platforms that I have? Now, on the topic of lowering the stakes and making content creation fun again, I want to talk about the third thing that I get hung up on, and I know that you might get hung up on as well, and that is having a niche versus not having a niche. On one hand, it's great to have a niche because it's a lot easier to come up with content ideas when you know what box you're in. At the same time, that box can keep you pretty creatively burnt out and resentful. But when you do try to post things that you love, they don't tend to perform as well sometimes, or they don't actually link back to income. And a lot of us, we do content creation because we need to financially support ourselves. This is where I came up with the one for you, one for me, and one for life concept that I want to share with you. Moving forward, rather than thinking about my content in pillars, I'm going to think about it in buckets. One for you, which means that I will make videos that are for you, for the viewer, what the algorithm wants, what's actually going to contribute back to income as well, but will also please my audience. This can look like how to grow on YouTube videos. And at the same time, I have this second bucket, which is one for me. This is creating content that I genuinely like, and I don't necessarily care about whether or not it performs because it fills my creative cup and it makes me happy. A good example are my weekly photo dumps on Instagram where I share pictures of my life. And then the third bucket is one for life. These are videos that I know will be my legacy. If I died, I would want you guys to watch these videos. I would want to be remembered by these videos. And if I had children, I would want to pass these videos down to them, even if YouTube wasn't a thing, even if social media wasn't a thing anymore. They may not be the trendiest topics that are going to go viral right away, but I know that they will be timeless and that I will be most proud of, that I actually would feel like I contributed back to society. So when I am creating a content piece where I know is for you, then yeah, I may pay more attention to the analytics and the performance of that post. But if I'm creating a piece of content that I know is for me and that was always the intention, then I'm not going to care if it gets a lot of likes or a lot of content because it fills my creative cup. And then finally, if I'm creating a content piece that's for life, I'm not going to care if it doesn't go viral. I'm not going to care if it gets a lot of views. But what I may look at is whether or not anyone DM'd me to say that they were glad I made that video. All this to say, when I remind myself of these three buckets, it allows me to manage my expectations with my content. And it also creates a really good balance between pleasing you guys, pleasing me and being selfish, and then also giving back to society. Even though 90% of why you're feeling stuck could be attributed to mindset, it's still important to have a strategy and a vision of what you want to be working towards. So I'm going to share my social media strategy for both my creator business and my physical product business to inspire your strategy, but also this context will be important when we talk about execution later in this video. For my personal brand, my ideal strategy is to have one platform that generates consistent income and traffic, one platform that keeps me top of mind with my audience, and one platform that fosters community. Now, your strategy might be different, but I'm just sharing mine to give you some inspiration. My one platform that generates consistent traffic and income is YouTube. This became clear to me during my sabbatical where I stopped posting for an entire year, and I noticed that YouTube was still growing in subscribers and I was still generating income off of it, whereas with Instagram, I was making no income and I was actually losing a lot of followers because I was not active on the platform. This is why if I am having a bad day and I had to choose between all the different platforms that I post on, I will always prioritize YouTube first. At the same time, even though YouTube is my primary platform, there are other platforms that I like to post on, for example, Instagram, because Instagram is my chosen platform to maintain my relevancy and stay top of mind with my audience. The thing with YouTube videos is not a lot of people have the patience to watch a 30-minute video nowadays, and I recognize that I'm actually missing out on a lot of people by not making short-form content. For example, I have this one video where I talked about all the features of the DJI Osmo Pocket, and what I did was I refilmed certain segments into Instagram Reels, and by posting these Instagram Reels, I was able to reach a lot of non-followers, but also drive more traffic to my YouTube video because my call to action for some of these videos was for people to watch my full YouTube video if they'd like to learn more about the camera. Now, the next component of my strategy is finding a platform that fosters community, and I think that this is the next level of my personal brand, and I've decided that this year I want to get into live streaming. As someone who's done content for the last 7 years, I already have an existing audience, and back then I would burn myself out pretty badly trying to get new subscribers and new followers. But now I realize it's actually very powerful to deepen the relationship that you have with your current audience. Through YouTube or Instagram, when I do something that's pre-recorded, it's more of a broadcast, whereas a live stream feels more like a conversation. And a lot of those organic conversations can actually lead to even better content ideas for my YouTube channel and my Instagram. And as someone who has a personal brand and a physical product business, I can totally see myself making a super boba while yapping about life and business. So I love the idea that I can kill two birds with one stone. Now, speaking of super boba, our social media strategy is primarily on Instagram. Ideally, in the future, we're also doing TikToks, but we want to master one thing at a time. And over on Instagram, we want to do 3 types of videos. The first type of video is founder style videos, where we're really sharing the behind the scenes, the story that we have as founders, because a lot of times people aren't just buying because of the product, they're buying because of the people and the story behind the product. The second type of videos is drink content, recipe style content. Now, this is actually a bigger challenge for me because it's something that I'm so not used to doing. But later in this video, I'm going to share the one strategy that really helped me overcome my overwhelm and master a content style that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. And then finally, the third type of video we like to create is educational videos that talk about the features and benefits of our products, such as our functional ingredients, the teas that we use, and why our teas are better than the alternatives out there. But the problem is I often let the excuse of I don't have enough footage of my raw ingredients stop me from actually making this type of content, which is why I want to try out InVideo AI to solve this problem. And by the way, InVideo AI is the sponsor of today's video. InVideo AI is an AI video generator, and with their new V3 update, you can create full-length videos with generative media using single text prompts. For example, you can create full-blown stories, product ads, promotional videos, and even education and infotainment. For me, I'm gonna make a short video highlighting Super Boba's functional ingredients. So the first thing I did is to head over to ChatGPT to ask for the best prompt I can use to make the most out of InVideo AI. I specifically said I wanna make a video talking about the benefits of lion's mane from our Super Boba teas, how our milk teas won't give you a sugar crash and also won't spike your cortisol levels. And this is the prompt that ChatGPT came up with. Next, because I am familiar with InVideo AI and how it has a bunch of different narration voices, I do want to use my own to make it a little bit more me. And so what I'm gonna do is head over to the plugins, click on voices, and then add voice. Here you're gonna have to submit a 30-second recording of your voice so that they can actually use it for the video. Now what I did is I went to ChatGPT to ask for a script that I could read that's 30 seconds long and follows the constraints that InVideo AI provided so that InVideo AI could get the most accurate version of my voice. Once I recorded myself reading the script, I then dropped it into InVideo AI. Next, what I'm gonna do is copy the prompt that ChatGPT gave me, head over to InVideo AI's video generator, and then paste. However, at the end of that prompt, I'm gonna say use Vanessa's voice. Next, we're gonna generate a video. Now, as InVideo AI is analyzing my prompt, it's now asking for more specific details. Do I want to use stock media or generative media? For me, I definitely want to use generative media to get the most realistic effect. It's also asking me for the visual style, whether I want it realistic, animation, or anime. I want mine realistic, and I also want mine to be 30 seconds for Instagram Reels. Then we're gonna hit continue. Now, all you have to do is wait while InVideo AI creates your video. Now, after a few minutes of waiting, this is the first draft that InVideo AI came up with. Stop settling for sugar crashes, choose clean energy with Super Boba, meet Super Boba, the milk tea that's changing the game. Packed with lion's mane mushroom, this superfood powerhouse supports focus, memory, and brain health without the jitters. So I think it's not a bad start for it being the first draft. I definitely think the voice sounds like me, but there are some improvements that I want to make, so let's do that together. So to make edits to the video is really easy. You just click on edit, and now you're able to see frame by frame all of the footage that they used. You can replace it with your own media, stock media, or create more generative media. You can also change the music that is used and also edit the script. And if you don't like the transitions, you can also manually change them yourself. So what I did is after uploading my own media, I just clicked on the frames that I wanted to replace. So for example, this one right here is a woman sipping her tea. I'm going to replace that with this footage instead. Then I'm gonna click apply. Next, I'm gonna save changes and we'll see what happens. Now, before I show you guys the final result, I also wanna make a few more tweaks. For example, putting the captions at the bottom of the video instead of the middle, and then also making the transitions a bit smoother. So let's generate and see what happens. So InVideo AI quickly did the changes, so let's look at the final result. Stop settling for sugar crashes, choose clean energy with Super Boba, meet Super Boba, the milk tea that's changing the game. Packed with lion's mane mushroom, this superfood powerhouse supports focus, memory, and brain health without the jitters. No sugar crashes, no cortisol spikes, just clean energy and mental clarity. Ancient ingredients meet modern wellness. Super Boba, the mindful milk tea for high performers and tea lovers. Unlock your potential with every sip. Now, considering the fact that this video took me less than 5 minutes to make, I'm really impressed with it. It's not only got my voice and also my media, but it also uses generative AI to fill in the gaps and create footage that I don't necessarily have myself. I also love the fact that I can edit this further, whether that's generating more media, swapping the media, the music, the transitions, changing the script, and even more. And I think that if you are someone that easily gets overwhelmed with scripting, filming, editing, recording, I think in-video AI could be a perfect solution. Now, you can get started with in-video AI for free, but if you want to use their generative capabilities, I highly recommend signing up for the generative plan. With the quality of work that it produces in minutes, it can easily save you hundreds and thousands of dollars that you otherwise would be spending on video editing, animation, and other production costs. And if you want to get started with in-video AI, then check out the link in my description box or in my comment section below. Now, so far in this video, we talked a little bit about mindset and also a little bit about strategy, but even if you have the best intentions, the best strategy, you'll always fall short if you don't know how to execute. So in this section of the video, I want to share my best recommendations on how to set yourself up for success. The first way to set yourself up for success is to learn more about your energy type and building a routine and schedule that honors that. And this is where I want to introduce you to human design. Human design is basically a personality map that tells you how you are naturally built to use your energy so that you can make the most out of who you are and create great work rather than feeling like you're always going against the grain. Now, within human design, there are 5 energy types, and don't worry, I'll show you how to find yours if you don't know it, but know that there are 5. For example, the most common one is the generator energy type. Someone who is a generator is able to work up to 8 hours a day, especially if they're excited about what they're working on, and they also thrive off of having a consistent schedule. And because this is the most common energy type, a lot of society is built around this energy type, which is why you see 8-hour work days and the norm being working 9 to 5. But what I want to show you is that this doesn't necessarily work for everyone. For example, if you look at my energy type, which is a projector, I am not built to work 8-hour days. I will burn out if I do that. In fact, I thrive when I only work 2 to 4 hours and do focused work during that time. I also thrive when I have a spacious calendar. I do not do well when I have multiple meetings in a day. Now, the reason why it's important for me to highlight this is because a couple years ago, I burnt out really badly while running my creator and course business to the point where I had to take a whole year off. And even though it shocked many people, it doesn't shock me at all because I was trying to keep up with a generator schedule. I had multiple meetings all the time. I was working more than 8-hour days. And so it's no wonder I burnt out so badly. Now, to figure out your human design, all you have to do is go on Google, search up human design calculator, input your time of birth and date of birth. And what I like about this is that it's not a subjective assessment like Myers-Briggs where you might change year to year. This is really the energy type that you were born into. And why I'm bringing all this up is when you know your energy type and you're self-aware, now you can actually build a schedule that's going to work with you and not against you. And what's also really cool is when I asked ChatGPT how each profile links back to being a creator, it gave some recommendations for each energy type. For example, with generators, where it's really important for them to be passionate and excited about what they're working on, it's really important that they do not say yes to trends that they don't actually want to do. Or manifesting generators who are more multi-passionate, they burn out quicker when they actually follow a niche. Then there's projectors like me who don't do well with forcing themselves to post consistently, manifestors who need to focus on quality over quantity, and reflectors who really need a good space in order for them to produce good work. To illustrate this further, I'm having a chat with my best friend, and she's a manifesting generator. I'm a projector, and I asked ChatGPT to compare our working styles in a chart, and it is crazy how accurate this is. Like, for her, she likes jumping in between filming, editing, and scripting because manifesting generators are multi-passionate. They really like pivoting between tasks. But for me, I need step-by-step structure, and I also have very slow starts to my morning. That's what works for me. It's kind of crazy when you see it that way. So definitely look into your human design. Now that you know your human design, I want to show you how I took things a step further using ChatGPT to create my ideal schedule. So I told ChatGPT that I'm a projector and that I also work out 4 times a week with my trainer, as well as my social media strategy that I shared with you guys. Then ChatGPT came up with a custom schedule that really forces me to not grind the whole day and also has a lot of pockets for rest or creativity. Now, once I got this ideal schedule, the next thing I asked was why it works for me so that I have more context. I also clarified with ChatGPT how many ideal working hours I should do in a day as a projector, and it told me that I only need 2 to 4 hours of focused output per day. Anything more than that is going to burn myself out. Now, this doesn't mean that I only work 4 hours a day. It just means that my highest output can only be capped up to 4 hours, and then the rest of the day needs to be more light work. So for example, it says that if I work beyond 4 to 5 hours of focused energy, I start feeling burnout, bitterness, fatigue, and I start feeling resentful about my business, content, and commitments. And this was literally exactly what happened to me 2 years ago, which is why I burned down my previous 7-figure business. So I definitely don't want that to happen again. Now, because I'm a very visual person, I took the schedule that ChatGPT recommended, I tweaked it a little bit, and then I went to Notion to create a Kanban board so that I could see the schedule clearly. Now, you can do this over on Google Calendar or whatever you're using, but I like having this bird's eye view of my ideal schedule. For each day, I almost have a theme, but beyond that, for each working block, I've included whether or not it's restorative work or whether or not it's high output work. And for anything that is high output, I estimated the amount of hours it would take me so that at the top here, it gives me a total of how many hours is spent on high output activities. And this is really based off of ChatGPT's recommendation for me as a projector, where I'm really only meant to do 2 to 4 hours of high output work per day. This includes anything related to filming, live streaming, editing, scripting, or heavy creative thinking. And by the way, if you're unsure of whether or not a specific work activity is high output or not, just ask ChatGPT. For example, I wasn't sure if live streaming was considered focus work, and it absolutely is. But also, I asked ChatGPT to kind of give me the energy drain by task, and this really helped me understand how many hours to allocate realistically before I start burning out. Now, even though I do like using Notion to see my ideal schedule in a bird's eye view, I still prefer using Google Calendar because it syncs up with my social calendar. And so what I do is I go into the task section and I will then put all the things that I need to work on. I will set the date and the time. And what I like about this is when I go into my calendar and I select tasks, I'm able to see what I'm doing. Now, if you do want to put everything onto Google Calendar, my recommendation is to create a new calendar. And then once you've created that calendar, you can then add the different themes and your time blocks. And that way it doesn't interfere with your social calendar or meetings that you have. You can also see your tasks as well. But if you think that's too overwhelming, then you can just remove it. But to take it a step further, especially if you are a woman watching my video, I also cycle sync. So I can actually see when I'm gonna get my period, how I should manage my energy that way. And if it's not aligned, then I will then move my tasks somewhere else where I have a higher energy level depending on where I'm at in my cycle. And how I figured this out is over on ChatGPT, I said, what's each stage of the menstrual cycle and what tasks should I be doing under each phase? And as you can see, when you are menstruating, it's best to avoid filming, live streams, or any big decisions. If you're in the follicular phase, you're gonna have a lot more creative energy. So this is a really great time to actually script your videos, brainstorm new ideas for your business. In the ovulation phase, this is when you are the most magnetic, most confident. This is a really great time to actually batch your videos, do your live streams. And finally, in your luteal phase, this is when you want to be a little bit more detail oriented. You might not have the most energy. So it's best to do a lot of editing, organization, or admin tasks. Now, even though all of these plans sound great on paper, whether that's cycle syncing or using ChatGPT and using your human design to create the perfect schedule, you don't necessarily have to follow it to the T. All this is giving you is self-awareness so that maybe during the days where you feel off, you don't necessarily blame yourself and shame yourself, because so many times we follow other people's schedules and we wonder why it's not working for us. And I hope that by sharing how I've built my schedule, you're able to at least have more grace on yourself. Now, this leads me to the second way on how you can set yourself up for success when it comes to executing your content plan, and that is having a minimum and maximum in terms of your expectations on what a good day or good week will look like. So for example, a good week for me, at minimum, I need to have at least one one YouTube video filmed. This is my bread and butter platform, and so anything else doesn't matter as long as I have at least one YouTube video filmed in a week. Now, the maximum of what would look like for a good week is not only one YouTube video filmed, but 3 Instagram Reels filmed for my personal brand and 3 Instagram Reels filmed for my Super Boba brand. Now, regardless if I hit my minimum, my maximum, or anywhere in between, that is considered a good week for me, and I can end the week knowing that at least I accomplished my minimum. Now, when I started setting a minimum and maximum in terms of my expectations on what a good day or good week could look like, it really helped me shift from shaming myself to then celebrating myself. And when you are celebrating your accomplishments, even if they are smaller accomplishments, you can then create momentum because now you're creating positive reinforcement. This was really helpful when I came back from my sabbatical because I had taken a year off of social media. I was very rusty when I came back, and I was constantly shaming myself because I couldn't bring myself to film a single video like I could before. And so then I told myself it would be a good day if at minimum I put my makeup on. I don't have to script, I don't have to film, I don't have to edit. Just as long as I put my makeup on to be camera ready, that is a good day for me. As I started proving to myself that I could accomplish things, my minimum threshold then started getting higher and higher. I was no longer saying, oh, at minimum I should put my makeup on. I was now saying at minimum I should script a video. And then after some time, it was at minimum I should film a video. And so that really helped me build that muscle to get comfortable with filming videos. And as months went on, now I'm able to film videos a lot faster than I could 2 years ago coming back from my sabbatical. Now, moving on to the third way to increase your chances of success with execution on your content strategy is habit stacking, but more importantly, creating if-then rules. I learned this from reading the book Atomic Habits. Now, earlier in this video, I talked about how overwhelmed I was with making drink content. I would always avoid making content like this because I felt like it was such a huge learning curve. And so then I created an if-then rule. If I am making a Super Boba for myself, then I will put my iPhone to the side and record it. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking to camera and filming specific content for Super Boba. All I'm saying is that whenever I make my own Super Boba drink, I just have to film myself making it. This allowed me to lower the stakes on one task that I perceived to be really hard by associating it with another task that I find to be very easy. And as a result of just hitting record, I not only got lots of B-roll footage, eventually I started becoming more comfortable in making drink content in general. Another example of habit stacking or creating if-then rules is I talked about how I really want to create more Instagram Reels for my personal page. Well, I could say if I'm filming a YouTube video, then directly afterwards, I'm going to film at least 3 Instagram Reels about 3 things that I talked about in my YouTube video. So for example, in this video that you're watching right now, earlier when I was sharing the mindset shifts, those are 3 points. So those could easily be 3 Instagram Reels that I film natively. And when I created the bird's eye view of my ideal schedule over on Notion, I actually planned it that way. Or directly after filming a YouTube video, it's allocating at least 1 hour to film Instagram Reels. By attaching a new unfamiliar habit with an existing habit that you're already doing, it's going to increase your output, increase your chances of success, and also increase your momentum. Now, so far in this video, I really hope that you learned that creating momentum for yourself is more than just do it. There's actually a lot of inner work, self-awareness, systems, and working harder, not smarter, that's actually required. Let me know in the comments below if you also have any tips to help with content overwhelm, and also if there were any tips I shared that were particularly helpful to you. And if you want to learn more of my systems and processes on how I make YouTube videos specifically, then watch this video next. As always, guys, I appreciate you, and I will see you in this video.